In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create an animation like this here, or basically these images here, but also we have the next button. So if we refresh, you can see here the images are moving, but if you click on next, you can see all of these images are moving correctly and accordingly matching with the data here. So if I refresh again, you can see here it goes back and then we move on here. Beautiful. So let's start to look how we can do this nicely. In this video, we're going to answer one of the viewers' questions, which is how to combine the bar images with previous or next button in chart.js. And this question came from one of my other videos about how to add an image on top of the bars in chart.js. So this question, if we scroll down here, you can see this question came from Shmuel Sigler. So a special thank you to Shmuel for asking the question. And this is what Shmuel asked. Question for my chart.js hero. Well, thank you for the compliment. I've built a bar chart with logo of every company on top of the bar, just like you showed us how to do. I have pagination to the chart so that the chart is updated to show the next 10 bars and so on. The issue is that the logos are not positioned correctly for none of the displays, but the first one. My guess is that I need to somehow update the plugin, the bar avatar, for every display. How could I achieve this? So he was talking here about the bar avatar. This is the plugin that we give it in here. So my assumption is, I'm not sure, and you have to correct me if I am wrong, if you have followed this video and you have followed maybe this one as well, where you have a previous and next, or show me the next 10, show me the next 20 companies, etc., etc. So this is probably, you have this one and that one combined. So what I'm going to show you here is an option which is easier, because at the time when I made this specific video, I didn't discover a certain part. So you will have now a more better version, and you will have this more, the images will move along with the animation. So let's start to work on that. To do this, we need to go to chartjs3.com, getting started, and in here, if somehow I get this error message here on my Google Chrome, or Firefox looks fine, however. On this website, we're going to copy this specific code here. And what we want to do here basically is this code we're going to use. If you want to understand what the code does, watch this video here that explains the JavaScript of it. So we're going to paste this in here. And once we paste this in here, I'm going to cut out this and I'm going to just put it in here for the title. Save this, refresh, and there we are. So now we have our bar chart. Eventually what we want to have is not only a bar chart, but we have a bar chart with images on top. So I have a set of images created, and I'm going to show you that later on. But what we're going to use here now is a special plugin, and this plugin is absolutely powerful, and it's not that famous. So let's start and work on that first. The first thing what I want to do here is to get the plugin here. Basically, to find the plugin, it's called the chartjs-plugin-labels. Or a quick note, do not get confused. There's one that's called the chart plugin datalabels. And the data labels is a different one from the labels. And here's another item. Labels here has not been updated before. Someone else, David Violante, eventually created the updated version that supports chartjs 3. As you can see, it has been forked from this version here. This here, you can see here, was the old version. This one, we're going with David Violante, is the latest version that supports chartjs 3. Very important, or else you will not get the result. So in here, we need a specific code. So if I scroll down, you will find it here. It's this one. This is the JavaScript that we need. Very important here because the name is almost same or similar to the version 2, except you can see here the initials of the developer, David Violante, DV. So this is the one we need. We're going to copy this. This will become very useful. In here, and then we're going to put it in here. Let's enter this. And then we have the script here. Put it there. We cut out this, put it in there, and save that. Once we save that, refresh, of course, it takes some time to load. It starts to do already something, which is quite nice. By default, it creates a 100% option here, but we don't want this. We want to put an image on top. So this one, by the way, this plugin is more specialized on pie charts, and I have a series for this one. I will show you later on, covering this, but it's more commonly on pie chart, but for the bar chart they have only this specific feature that they allow. But we can convert this into images. So to do this, all we have to do here is scroll down, and if you want to figure out the link here, by the way, this is the link. GitHub David Violante chart.js-plugin-labels. So this is very important. You will see this one here. And what we want to do here is this option. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to put in already some commands here. So we say here, after the scales, for comma, we say plugins. And in the plugins here, we do these curly braces. We don't have to activate the item or register the item or the plugin. The reason why is because for some reason, this one activates itself even the moment you put in the script, which makes it quite easy. And this is it's quite unfamiliar plugin, but very powerful, very useful in our situation. So what we're going to do is the following. To make this, we need to say your labels. All right, so this is the plugin, and then we have the plugin term, which is the labels. And in the labels, we're going to say the following. We're going to say render, because we want to render a specific item, and all what we want to render here is basically images. So we say images, or image. That's the one we want. So if you want to look here, you can see here, we scroll down here somewhere. This is it, sorry, images. This is the one we eventually need. So we say images, and then in here, comma, we will say images, brackets, because it's an array, and then in here we could do anything. So if we would do a quick image here, do we have an image? Let's see here, copying, no. Do I have this one here? Then we can copy the image address. So I'm going to copy this one, and then I will show you, and later on we're going to work on it correctly. So I have the images ready, by the way, so don't worry about it. So we have this here, and basically we need this. This is an array, and here, this will pinpoint the first item in here. So we say here, or the first bar. We say the source. And here we put in, let's say, this specific user. Then we have a comma, and then we can say here the width, how many pixels. Let's make this 30 pixels. And then we have another one is height, 30 pixels as well. So if I save this, let's see if this works. Alright, doesn't work yet. Let's see why, or let's see what is happening here quickly. What am I missing? Image. Alright, images. That's the item. Do I do render? Let's see here, render. Render value, oh, sorry, there you are. The render value is image, but the term here is images. Very important. As you can see here, set images when render is set on image. So my issue here was image as a string and then images here. Although this, to be honest, would not make any sense. Although I do understand to a certain extent, this has images, meaning that there's multiple images in here. So if I save this, refresh here, now we have this one here. You can see here the animation goes up and down. I have another video that covers that as well, if you would do it really by coding. But at the time when I make this specific video, I didn't knew that correctly. However, this one here is so much easier. So you can imagine what we need to do here now is basically this. So alright, this, and then if you put in another one, paste that. There you are. Alright, so this works like that. But I can imagine you might say, well, hold on, I have more than 100 items. I do not want to do this. Fair enough. So let's start to work with the right thing. So what I'm going to do here now, I got a array here. So I assume maybe you have an array of data, and these are just images. So I have created this already, I prepared this in advance, which is fruit image. This is my constant, and this constant is an array with different types of fruits. Very straightforward. So if I copy this and I just save these files on my desktop right now, you will see we get different fruit types here. And if I would do this, and I would just say here pear, we have another one. Save, refresh, there we are. So now we get fruit types. However, if you have multiple, you don't want to do this, and that's why I have the array. So what we're going to do here first is to convert this into this structure here, because this here indicates the height and width. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use this. We're going to convert this into this object array here, or array of objects. That's what we're going to do here first. So to do this, all we need is the following. I'm going to say here, constant, and let's say this constant, we're going to loop through all these items. So what I want to do here, I want to use the .map or the array map method, meaning that we're going to loop through every item here, and then we're going to create a structure similar to this, where it becomes an object or an array with these two items in here, or objects as well in there. So we say here constant, let's give this a fruit image array, very simple, equal. And you can have here, of course, any kind of items here, as long as these are links or sources wherever you get them from, maybe from the database, an array, something like that. So what we're going to do here is the following. We want to grab this array, because this is the array we have here, and then we say here fruit image dot map, and then in here all I want is the following. So I'm going to use here two parentheses. Then we say image, and what I mean by image here would basically refer to every one of these items. It's like a for loop here. We're going to pinpoint out every single item, this image, or it could be fruit, or maybe in your case company, but I'll just call it image, comma index. This is optional, but I do like to have the index in here. Sometimes it can be useful. And then what we're going to do here is create a function. So we just put this here, and if you want to understand what is this here, so this here, this is what we call the function, the arrow function operator. Basically what we mean is just this function, and then we just do like that, and then here will be this. This is same, it's just shortcut because it's apparently it becomes more and more common to remove function and just use terms like this. It's apparently considered more professional, maybe shorter words, lesser characters. Anyway, so what we're going to do here is the following. We have this now here, and basically what we say here, we will loop through all of these items just to give you a clear idea what it is. I'm just going to console log this, and same here, we can console log the index as well, so we have an understanding what is happening here behind the scene. Open up the developer tab, and you can see here now we're looping through all of these items, and you can see here index 0 would be apple, which is correct. The first one is apple. The other one is index 1 would be pear, and then you see a grape, etc., etc. We have all these shapes here: apple, pear, grapes, etc., etc. All right, so we have this here. So what we're going to do here now is basically the following. We're going to put them in here. So we're going to create the object. So we say let and a fruit object, because we're going to make an object here, which is basically images, but they need to be in these curly braces. Why? Let's look at it back here. The structure is like this, curly braces. Array is given. It's very important because we're going to work with a map. Map method is built for arrays. So it is given that this is already an array. So the only thing we need to do now is just to create then. Basically what we're saying is this. We have these brackets here, and then the first thing what we do here now is the fruit object would be these curly braces. But what we want to do here is basically with this, the brackets are outside. Here's the loop. The loop is inside. This is the loop part and end of loop. End of map loop. Let's call it like that. So what happens now inside becomes important. So we have this here now, and now what we need to do is just to specify the names. To get the proper names, let's correctly type this, fruit object. So scroll down here. To get the proper names, all we need here is the terms here. You can see here, source or src, width, and height. So we need their official terms here, and then we can put in the values in there. So what we're going to do here is very simple. We're going to say here the following. So in this fruit object, we're going to create a object name, which is source. src, that is exactly same here. That's basically what we're doing. And this source will have the value of what exactly? The image that we have placed in there. So basically now what we have created in this loop, the first one would be image, and then here would be the image that is basically this, and what I mean by that is basically this one here. But now we have automated it. So the next one would be, let's add another one. We put an enter here, and now this will be just width, because the width is the next one. And then here we can just say the value can be 30, can be anything you want, just put it in there, but you have to consider, as you can see here, 30 pixels is probably more than sufficient. After a while it will go maybe too high, and we need to do some adjustments here as well. So once we did this one, you figure out that, alright, we also need height, 30 pixels. So if the image would be a different shape, and I know that this image is 50 by 50 pixels, but maybe you have other images as well. If you have different shapes, you need to reconsider this, because this is a loop here. So then you have to really create another array here, where you can push that in, but then you need to use the index here. Very important. But I will not go deeper in this for now. If you really need to know, because you have different images size, let me know and I'll show you how to do that as well. It's just to keep it a bit more concise for this video. So now we have this. So we have this understanding here. So if we do this, if I do now our console log, or before we even do that, what we need to do here is make sure we want to say return. And return basically is to add this up or push. Basically, it's almost like a push. Push it in the array. So what we return here is basically the fruit object. Because if we don't return it, it will be blank. It doesn't save the value. So that's why. So it will push it in here, and then next we'll push it again in here, and then you have these kind of structures. We have the first one that pushes in, it returns that, then the next value return with pear, apple, etc., etc. So we have this here now. All right. Then we're going to do a console log. The console log will not be on this, but will be on the fruit image array. Do this here, save that, refresh. So now we have this. You can see it loads here. Let me explain this loading. Well, you can see here. Well, let me first show this here. You can see here now, this is the array that we have created. Beautiful. This is exactly the same structure that we need for below here. And another thing, maybe you might say, why is it loading so long? This here is an unpacked or unpackaged JavaScript library, meaning that it needs to unpack itself. It's packed in I think a gzip or something. I'm not really familiar with how they did it, but it is zipped, and then you have to extract it first, and that's why it takes some time to load. So this is the reason why this effect here is quite slow. All right. So we have this here now. Let's start to put in the most important item. So we have this fruit image array. You can imagine now if you would have 100 items, it's easy to do here. So we're going to copy this, and then what I'm going to do here, this here, if you would have 100 items, you have to do 100 times. Now, because of our array that we created, we can delete. Oh, let me just delete everything so you understand what I'm doing. I'm going to delete this and then also delete the bracket here. Why? And then we're going to just paste in this. Why? Remember, the map is already an array. It understands that it's an array. So it already has the brackets in here. So if I save this now and refresh, you can see here now we get all the items in here beautifully. And we still even have other items that are still not being shown because pineapple is, I guess, number 6. Well, let's look at this here. You can see here these items. So what I want to do here is I want to just change this so we have the proper names. I'm going to copy this. You can see here I have this label already pre-saved just to save time. I'm going to put this in here. Alright. Then once we have this, do it like that. Oh, no, we don't have to do it like this. I'll just put it in here. Then we just grab the labels, put the labels in here. Make sure you have a semicolon here. Save that, refresh. Alright, so you can see your pineapple is the last, cherry, melon, and lemon is still missing. So we still need to put in this. So what I want to do here is just to put a new button here. Here we can say next, 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 and then we move on. And as we move on, you will see that all these items will start to move along as well. For this, I'm going to use a trick as well. I'm using all kinds of tricks that we can use because of chart.js and the structure of chart.js. So it's a very common, well, let's put in here 10, 11, and 12. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this out. I'll just say your constant data labels equals this. Alright, and then we say your data labels here. Save that, refresh. So there we are. So now we have all of these fruits here being shown. And you can see here as we move this, the animation works nicely. Of course, what we need to do next is to play around. So I'm going to use a trick here, a quick trick. I explained this trick in depth here, by the way, with all these previous and next buttons where you can make it very interactive. So I'm going to use here just the basics of it. So we're going to do this. On the X scale, I'm going to force or show only 4 items at a time. And then we have a button later on. We'll move on showing the other items. So we say here minimum value, or minimum will be 0. There will be index 0, which is apple. And then let's say here index 3 would be orange. So we have 4 items to be shown at a time, or 4 elements. So I say min and max. Max will be 3. Remember, this is an array-based counting. And array-based counting in JavaScript is 0-based. So we have this here, comma, save that, refresh. So now we have this here. Alright, that looks nice. What I want to do is just remove all these colors. No need for this now because they might create confusion. There you are. So we have these icons here that should be more than enough. So what I want to do is the following here. I'm going to put in here a new function, and this function should have here up a button. So we're going to say here this. So I'm going to say button, and in this button we say on click equals next, and that's it. We say here next item or next fruit. So what we're going to do is that the moment we click on this, we will see the next fruit. It will move one by one. So if I scroll down here, we're going to put here now the function. So we're going to say your function next, or what was it? Is it next or next fruit? I'm not sure. I thought next. All right. So next. Then in here, all we're going to do is quite straightforward. I am not going to modify. It's possible to modify the array here, but then you have to have a splice or with slice. Most likely slice instead of splice. But it's up to you. For now, I will not. But if this is necessary, let me know. I will make a separate video for that. And what I want to do is I want to pinpoint these here, and I just want to move these array values, move it more to the left or to the right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say my chart. So how do we get to this specific point here? We say here for my chart, we just say here my chart config dot config and then dot. And in config we go here. Then we go in the options. We go to scales x and then minimum, and then the other one will be max. So we say options dot scales dot x. All right, options scales dot x min. Then we say min. We just say here instead of min equals, we say just +1. So it will just add 1 every time we press on it. So we do exactly the same for the max. Exactly the same methodology. We do this max +1. And then what we do, of course, here is my chart.update. Save that. Refresh. So now we have that, and if we say next fruit, as you can see here now, it starts to move nicely. Alright, so you might notice here, and of course it doesn't stop. If I refresh this, and you might notice, well, what about this here? We're breaking this. I'm going to show you another option here. This is a very useful trick that when I was trying to make this video, I was trying to figure out the term, but I couldn't figure it out. I thought it was a trench, but it's not. It's called grace. And so what we're going to do here on the Y value, we're going to say we're going to add up a grace area. So basically an area that we allow to have some extra space or breathing space, basically. So we say grace, and then we can just say here a string value of 5%. So that would mean that the Y scale will have a 5% extra space here. And percentage is better than a solid number. And the reason why, if I do now a solid number, if I save this now here, we get this solid number. This is fine, but the moment the values here are, let's say, over 1,000, or let's say 18,000, you can see here having this 5 is, well, apparently it still does quite well, but just to make sure or to avoid it, I tend to go here on, instead of 5, I would just say here 5%, although I was expecting that it might counteract on us. However, here 5 and 5% apparently works exactly identical. So now you can move this on here, and we move this, and you move this, you move this, you move this. No matter how high the value is, it will never hit the top. It will not overlap your legend here. And that is basically here what you have to do. And that's the entire item. So if you want to go really more deeper in this, as I said before, because I assume that those are combined, I highly recommend you to watch this specific video that will show you, and it will also be interactive and intelligent enough to understand that when we hit the very end of it, like here, we can keep on going, but this should not be. Eventually it should be grayed out, and then we have the back button. So that's it for now.